This is Diesel for We the People. I'll dig into it a little bit more. Let's go ahead and proceed forward on this. It's Kristen Hall, and Constitution-wise, she's just the best out there. There's really not a whole lot of people can compare to her, because when she digs in deep, and she studies the whole history and put all the puzzles together. All the founding fathers, where they came from, how the Constitution came up, and all that. So what research that I've studied, she's right on cue. So now I'm actually into areas that I'm starting to learn things from her. I knew a lot before her, but she just increased my knowledge, and then I verify it. And she's always been on cue, so it's like, here we go.
It goes to a lot of things that we have gotten our priorities out with, and I want to touch on the priorities there with you, Chris Ann, on this. But before I do that, as we were talking about this, we were talking during the news break about the ABC story about flights, and that if you've had to prove a test and everything for flights. See, that's a whole new level. Now they're talking about 2 masks. Well, why don't we just wear 5 masks and put a bag around our head? You know what I mean? But
a hazmat suit.
Anyway, you said something about the test that I didn't know, and I want you to share that.
Yes, so the Supreme Court has said specifically in 2 separate cases that the government cannot geo-track someone through their cell phone without a warrant, and they can't engage in infrared technology where they look through your house and the building through infrared cameras without a specific warrant. So when you take the test, it doesn't matter how you take it or where you take it. When you fill out the paperwork to take that test, you sign a waiver to your rights. And what you say is that you do not you will not disagree with the medical agency sharing all your information, including your cell phone number, so that they can geo-track you with your cell phone, because the Supreme Court says without a warrant, you can't do this unless you have their permission. And the test specifically makes you grant permission.
Okay, I'm going to push back a little bit. You're telling me, and I believe you, but you can prove that the COVID test, that everybody's getting tested. I mean, that's the big push, get tested. It's not about how many deaths and stuff there are now. It's about new testings. And so you've signed away rights when you signed up to get tested.
Yeah, that's absolutely right.
How is that legal?
Lawyers, that's how it's legal. So they write these things so that it's in writing. The problem is that we all have a responsibility to read what we sign. And the law will imply that you have read and understood. When you sign something, it always has a clause that says, I hereby acknowledge and that I've read and I understood what I signed. And that's why they have in these forms a little clause that says that you do not disagree and you willingly allow them to share your information with the government.
So that means if they enact this, though, and you can't fly in a plane without taking the test, they're forcing you to give up your rights. I don't know how somebody doesn't challenge that.
Well, it should be challenged.
Okay. Do you feel like the whole world's upside down?
Okay, so we're going to pause there for a second. Now, yes. However, I'm going to go with a step further than what she said. It's really a contract, and they will not proceed forward on this contract without your consent. So to kind of help you out and really void the contract with you basically signing it, is you got to put your name in there, and all in small letters, and you got that row with the 2 dots on it, and I don't remember what that's called. And then your name. Okay, you don't have to say row. That's my last name, but you just put your last name first, small letters, the dot, whatever that's called, and then your name in small letters, and print it. All right. Then beside there or underneath there, but somewhere around there, you must put all rights reserved without prejudice. Do that. Period. No ifs, ands, or buts. What you are doing right there is now basically saying that you was forced into this contract, which, what do they say? That they're forcing you into it, right? So you put that in there, and that would help level out your Constitution. And when I say your Constitution, some of you guys already know, it's not our Constitution. We got inalienable rights. We got liberty. Okay? The Constitution belongs to government, just in case there's some new people there, right? So the Constitution is a stop sign from the government entering into, let's dare say it, enter into our jurisdiction, our freedom. Okay? So they put this jurisdiction out there and all that kind of stuff. But the Constitution in general, when you really sit and look at it, it's a jurisdiction. Okay? And they got to follow these lines before they can enter our jurisdiction and of inalienable rights. And what we do, as we the people, as the governed, has been giving consent under false pretense of false contracts. All right? Your property land, the reason why you're paying taxes is because you didn't read the fine point, which they do not find real easy. But when you really get into the back doors, it specifically says you are leasing it. You don't own it. You're leasing it from, I live in Texas, so I lease my property from the state of Texas. That's how they get you into consent of the taxes, is because you rightfully do not own your land. You're leasing it from the Texas, for my behalf, okay? Other states is the same way, you know, and they may word it different, and it may be easier to find, it may be harder to find. But in essence, that's what it is. You are leasing your property that you pay cash for, okay? Therefore, you had to pay lease dues, which is called taxes. So, anything you sign with the government, always remember to small letters, ... last name, and most of the contract you do, okay? And if they say anything, just tell them, are you acting as my attorney? Because my attorney said do this. Okay? And if you represent yourself, well, you're calling yourself basically attorney, okay? But you wouldn't be lying, right? So if you represent yourself, well, my attorney says I must do this. All right? So I wanted to stop there. This next part of this, I glanced at it, and it seemed interesting, so I don't really know a whole lot. I'm going to go through it with you. But this right here, it's got God in there, okay? Now, you can go by with God, aliens, nature, or whatever. So just take it into some type of contents with you, okay? But, and just feel around with it, okay? You can kind of, when you hear about this, you'll understand what I'm getting at, okay?
That's the way it was in the first century in the time of Jesus. He came into a big government, secular society. That's the society that the Father sent him to. When in Acts chapter 17, verse 6, it says this: when they found them not, they drew Jason and certain brethren and the rulers of the city, crying, "These that have turned the world upside down have come here also." It seems like everything has gotten turned upside down, and now your mission is to turn it right side up, right, to give a proper order to power. You shared 5 things with me earlier, and I want you to go over this.
Sure. Well, I'm actually teaching at the River School of Government in Tampa, Florida, and one of my classes is about the origin of liberty and the proper role of government. And what I explain to my students is that God, in ordaining government, created a proper flow of government. And in that, it's a flow of power, in which the power flows from God to man through creation. Then as a people who socialize together to society, and then through the creation of government by society. So that natural flow, the God flow of power, is God, man, society, government. What has happened in America is we have flipped that upside down. Now remember, if it's running in God's order, then it's God's order. But if it's opposite of God's order, it's the Antichrist. So when we flipped it upside down, now we have government, society, man, and God on the bottom. We are operating within the Antichrist system, and that's what my mission is, and what we also teach at the River School of Government in Tampa is how do we train up people to get into the system to turn it right side up again.
So you're saying that we are currently in government, society, man, and then God, that order, and the God ordained it to be God, man, society, government.
Yeah, I can prove it to you,
okay.
Right? So here's how this works. God, man, society, government. If we were operating in that way, when you lost your job, you would go to prayer and look for God for your provision. If you had a medical need or some financial need or something, you would go directly to God. But even in our churches, instead of going to God, they go to government. How many of our churches took the federal PPP money during the COVID test? They went from government to first instead of God first. And so that's the upside down. When we talk about government is the first place that we go when we have a need, or we run out of need money, or we run out of job. Americans everywhere, even Christians, begging for stimulus money from government. We've put government at the head. Society is the social order, where you now have people who are controlling people's speech, controlling how they think by simply coming at them and, you're racist, or you're a bigot, or that's not the way you're supposed to talk, you're triggering me. That's the society part. We live in a government society, man, God society. We need to turn that upside down.
Okay, so in all of this, you were talking during the news break, and we were looking at Texas and the border wall. And
okay, so I've talked about this in other videos, but I didn't go into great details like that. I just went, nature, man, and government, and it's got flipped. But she went into a little bit more depth. But man is all about me and them people, okay? Your family. Anybody around you revolves around your family first. So God, family, and them people. Okay? So always kind of go to that. This is Diesel for We the People. I hope you found this interesting. Until next time, y'all. Bye.